Thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who have overcome or those who are in the process of overcoming any life topic. We have three objectives with this podcast series. Our first objective is we want you to know that whatever you're experiencing in life, whatever you're encountering, you're not alone. We want to join you to let you know that we together can help you through whatever challenge you may have that at the time may seem too difficult to be able to overcome. Our second objective is to help you determine with a very confident resolve there are multiple solutions, multiple factors involved in any life encounter. It's a matter of thinking into and thinking through the life situation you are encountering to determine the various options, the various solutions that are available to you. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If whatever you're experiencing is a result of a decision you made sometime in the past, such that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision, we want to help you determine the objective facts and factors to evaluate to help you reach a more informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. Together we are the Cooper Culture, and the Cooper Culture is sponsoring this podcast series. Today we feature Coach James Johnson, defensive line coach, Calvert High School football team. He is a self-described child of a broken family. He was raised in the hood, and he overcame a lot of the potential influences that had he not overcome those influences, this podcast could have possibly been one of the variety that he overcame drug abuse, sex abuse, any of those kinds of things. But there were two people who very effectively engaged in his life to help him make good decisions. Marty, what are some takes our listeners can gain from this broadcast?
As we listen to Coach Johnson talk about the two people, the officer Johnson and a teacher that invested in his life, helped him make good decisions and become the coach that he is today and the person he is today helping other children. I wonder how many children are out there that would just love to have someone like Coach Johnson invest in them. And I say to those out there that are thinking about this, find out how you can help a child because it is very rewarding.
The clarion call from Coach Johnson is get engaged. Just choose to engage in people's lives. Do whatever it takes to get between the child, the person you're working with, and whatever adverse influences that could cause this person to make the wrong decision. Engage with us and listen to a very inspiring podcast. Coach Johnson, thanks for joining us. Do I understand correctly, you're from a self-described broken family, and from what I know of you, you've overcome. Can you take the time to just briefly describe your broken family, where you've been, so the listeners can identify with where you've been, but we want to focus on how you've overcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Yes, I do come from a broken home. My mom and dad split when I was 12 years old. That was one of the toughest days in my life. I still remember it like it was yesterday. It caused my mom to have to make some decisions where we lived. I grew up in some rough neighborhoods, some drug-infested neighborhoods. But, the way I looked at that when I was growing up, some of those situations were outside of my control. That's where I was. That's where I started. But I didn't want that to define who I was as a young man.
I love hearing what you just said. You will never allow your past to define your future.
Yes, sir.
How old were you when your family, your mom and dad had the breakup?
I was 12 years old. I was in sixth grade. I remember that. Yeah, I was in the sixth grade, 12 years old. My mom and dad split. I'd heard the arguments, the disagreements, the physical abuse from my dad. So I kind of felt that something was going to happen. I didn't know if they were going to end up in divorce, but as a 12-year-old, you you shouldn't be put in that position. But I kind of knew something was going to happen. Either my dad was going to probably end up going to jail, or what eventually ended up happening. My mom said enough is enough, and she moved on. She was trying to close that chapter in her life with my dad, and she moved on.
You're at a very formative age when this happened. From your description, you were in the hood, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
You were with drugs, alcohol. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that it seems, should you have chosen the route that you could have indulged in all that kind of stuff, and it could have been temporary relief of what you were experiencing. Talk to us about your mindset, the circle of friends. There was something that kept you from making that wrong decision.
Yes. And it has a lot to do with why I chose the law enforcement profession. But like I said, I was around drugs every day. I mean, there wasn't a block that I couldn't turn on that there was drugs, prostitution, robbery, all that stuff going on in my neighborhood. But I had some people in my community when it came to law enforcement and football coaches who took a liking in me that kind of led me in the right direction. And one of the biggest things, like I said, I was tempted. I was tempted because I saw people selling drugs that were so-called friends of mine, and they made it look so tempting and made it look so easy. And financially, with my mom kind of struggling, I was somewhat tempted to do it. But the disappointment that I know would have brought to my mom, the disappointment that it would have brought to myself, I never wanted to see myself as the image that I used to see of people getting locked up, people using drugs, people selling drugs. And then, like I said, when it came to the people that I had in my life, the mentors that I had in my life at that time, there was law enforcement, there was people that cared about me, people that didn't set me down and say, you need to do this or you need to do that. But they showed me by their own actions, if you live a certain way, if you surround yourself by certain people, you can have a better outcome for yourself.
Two very important aspects of what I'm taking from what you said. One is values. Your mom instilled values in you that I'm just not going to do any number of things that the hood was doing. But then the corollary, which may have been even at least an equal value, was friends, which may have been in the form of mentor. You, at least, what I discerned what you just said, you looked up to these people and you maybe clung to them to some degree. They helped you enforce your decision. I'm not going that way, but I'm going the better way.
Yes. And it always seemed those people in my life, especially there was a one detective, his last name was Johnson also, but it was one detective. It would seem like every time where he could it seemed like he had a sense that I was headed in the wrong direction or I was contemplating something. He would always kind of pull me to the side and kind of get me back focused on the path that I needed to be on. I had 3 peers in my life coming up, friends that we're still friends to this day. We all come from broken homes, except for one of my friends. He was kind of like the exception to us. But everybody else, we all came from broken homes. But we used to use, and we didn't even realize it at the time, but just talking to each other and talking about our futures and talking about what we wanted to do outside of what we were seeing in our neighborhood. We just held on to each other. Just through that communication, I think that was a bigger bond, and we didn't realize the help that we was bringing in the somewhat counseling that we was bringing into each other's lives at that time.
Talk to me about Officer Johnson in the context of he had a sense. Here's where I'm asking this. Can we engage effectively in a person's life? I'm now trying to get you to think back to when you were 12 years old, somewhere in that time frame. If we had a sense that we're dealing with a Coach Johnson, we know his background, I just have a sense there's a possibility he may make the wrong decision. I want to engage in his life now. I don't want to label, stigmatize, stereotype. I don't want to do any of that. I just know I care enough about you. I love you. I want to effectively engage. Thinking back to that point, it seems that this Officer Johnson was very effective with that, can you tell me, did you feel that he was labeling you or anything of that sort? What I'm trying to do is help people engage, even before they make a fateful decision. Absolutely. But there's a line I think we can cross. If we label you as such, we can turn this whole thing in the wrong direction. Absolutely. So you know very effectively, and this is extremely important to me, how can we effectively engage based on how Officer Johnson effectively engaged with you?
Absolutely. And it's funny you bring that up because, like I said, he never looked at me or my situation. He never looked at me as coming from a broken home. He never looked at me as living right next door to a house that we know sell drugs out of. He never looked at me. He looked at the person that was inside of me. He looked at the young man that he saw playing football, hanging out, smiling, just like a normal kid. And that's the person that he engaged with. And what he wanted to do was keep me on that path and not have me steer into a path where I wanted to engage in some of that drug selling activity, the robberies, because all that stuff was around me. And although some of those people were, I wouldn't call them friends, they were associates in my neighborhood that I couldn't run from them, but it was just like a high-by conversation. Some of them played on my football team. Some of them played on my basketball team. But when he saw me interacting with those individuals, he would pull me to the side and say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to pick or choose your friends, but you need to be aware of what's going on in your life. You need to be aware of if you decide to hang around these people, you could be judged by being with those people, or the activities that they're involved in, you might want to partake in those activities. And it was different because I had a teacher who helped me. I used to struggle with reading growing up, and she helped me with my reading, and I mean, she did a wonderful job. But the way she interacted with me and the way Officer Johnson interacted with me, she told me everything that was wrong with me. She told me everything that, what was wrong with me, why I struggled reading, because, people wasn't taking time with me. She talked about my past, and she pretty much labeled me as if you don't take the direction that I'm going in, that I'm trying to put you to go, if you don't take the direction that I'm trying to steer you in, this is what your life is going to be. And she told me one particular day, I wanted to go to it was a neighborhood function they was having. It was like with live bands and stuff, but there was going to be a lot of drug selling and stuff like that. And I just happened to mention it to her one day. She asked me what I was doing over the weekend, and I said, they're having this function in the neighborhood at one of the parks, and I wanted to go to it. She said, I don't recommend you go to that. I said, well, I'm not going to do anything wrong. I just want to go and hang out and be around some of my friends. She said, I can tell you right now, if you follow that path, you're going to end up incarcerated or dead. And that's something that stuck with me, opposed to how Officer Johnson approached me. He never really told me that, I'm going to be this person or that person. He just pretty much laid it out to me like, listen, if you do these things, if you want a better life for yourself, this is what it's going to take.
What I hear you saying is these two, your teacher and Officer Johnson, in some ways were very opposite in the way they communicated with you, but yet very complementary.
Yes.
Your school teacher said you make this choice and everything you do is going to be wrong. It's kind of the negative.
Yes.
You do this, and I'm going to tell you all about the negative.
Yes.
And Officer Johnson said, I see the positive in you. You are worth my time investment. I'm going to take the greater good of you, but the two work together in what would seem to be teachable moments in your life, but they each chose to engage in a way that they either thought, I don't care if you think something negative about me, or I'm going to approach you in a way that I'm not going to even give you a reason to think anything negative about me. I'm just going to be very truthful with you. And what I'm sensing is, and I just want to see if you felt this way, you each, albeit a very different approach, saw value in me.
Absolutely. And although to me, Miss Stitt, and I love her for being honest with me to this day, but even though, she was honest with me, and I think it was something that sometimes we don't understand that we need that honesty, even though that honesty might hurt, That honesty might force you to look at yourself in a certain way. But I think sometimes you need that brutal honesty to see exactly what your future could be if you decide to partake in certain things.
Now, let me ask you, in the context of brutal honesty, what kind of how would you describe your relationship with your teacher? In other words, did you feel you had a closeness with her that doesn't matter what negative she says, it's going to be to your benefit?
Yes, she had already built a foundation with me that showed me that she cared about me. So I think from the beginning, had she approached me like that, it probably would have rubbed me the wrong way. But she had already built a relationship, and she knew who she was talking to. I didn't look at it as she was talking about me. She was talking to me. And that's the way I kind of looked at it.
Very important. Approximately how long was the relationship development? How much time did you spend with until you, I'm going to say, had the confidence in your teacher? The same thing with Officer Johnson. Just give me an approximate time frame. How much time was it that you felt very confident with each?
I would say when Officer Johnson, it happened kind of quick because it happened through sports. He was my coach, and although he was teaching me football, he was teaching me life lessons. So I never even looked at it as if he was almost like not prying in my life, but trying to teach me life lessons. So it was coming from another direction, but he was still getting his point across through football. With my teacher, Miss Stitt, it was a friendship. It was a relationship that grew over, I would say, some months of her tutoring me in reading.
Very important that different styles for your teacher. It took a little bit more time to develop that confidence. With Officer Johnson, football, I would say you both were there because you share the same values. Although, I mean, it's football.
Absolutely.
You are coming in here. You already know what this program is about. Yeah. So he's starting off with maybe a leg up, so to speak, from your teacher, but the values.
Yeah, the values were both there, but I think it was more, it had more to do with me letting my guard down. I was more comfortable with football, so I was already relaxed, and I wasn't thinking there was some type of hidden agenda or anything like that. With Miss Stitt, I was coming to her for something I was ashamed of, so that my guard was already up. I was ashamed about my reading. That's how I was referred to her, because every time it was time for me to read, I would try to go to the bathroom and get out of it. And the teacher knew, she kind of picked up on that. She's like, every time it's time for him to read out aloud, he would struggle with that. So that's how I was referred to her. So my guard was already a little bit up. So anything she probably would have tried in those first 3 weeks, I would have been apprehensive from the beginning. Okay. But on the football side of it, I was ready to go, and I was more relaxed.
I'm going to ask you just use a little bit different term. You say your guard is up. Let me just use the term vulnerability. Oh, yes. In the context of Officer Johnson, you had already developed that trust, rapport. You're both there commonly for football and so forth. Here's my guess, and I want to see if this is an accurate assimilation. You were able to be very vulnerable with Officer Johnson. You could tell him anything about you. Hey, I feel inadequate. I feel like I can't do. I need some. My confidence is at a low level, something like that. I mean, you're just exposing yourself, yes, so to speak. But my guess is, and I want to ask you this as a question, your relationship with Officer Johnson was such that you knew he would never use that against you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to me, it didn't even come across the fact that he was law enforcement, because there was a stigma in my neighborhood that you really didn't talk to police officers. But the way he approached me and the way he shared things with me, and he shared things about his own life that really made me be able to relate to him. So it was more relatable, and I was able to relax and, like I said, talk openly and talk freely.
That is a huge attribute right there, that as we engage, be relatable.
Yes. And
I'm not above you.
Yes. Maybe
I've experienced some things you haven't, but if we can relate, then we can communicate. We can connect, yes, is a term that I frequently use. Coach, let me ask you from two perspectives. The person, maybe the younger person, it doesn't matter who it is right now, who feels that, man, I'm, if not a victim, I don't even know where to turn. I'm from a broken family,
Yes.
and my life is in a disarray. What's the call to action to that person?
So the way I would approach that, the way I would talk to a person in that situation, you got to really ask yourself, okay, first of all, I think you got to know or at least have an idea where you want to go in life. Not a plan, but just where do you want to go in life? Is the situation that you're in right now, is it where you want to be? And if it's not where you want to be, what else do you want to do in life? And what do we have to do to get there? And I think once you start mapping out that plan, okay, what it's going to take to get there, you got to stick to it, and you have to believe in yourself. It might be hard to do sometimes. Your surroundings might play a role in how you see yourself in the future, but you have to start surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, people that are goal-driven, people that see your ideas and want to help you get that out of life.
So there's a sense, I think, that I need to see in you a desire to be something other than what you are. I want to see a desire that you want to be greater than what you are.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I can say, and going back to Officer Johnson, he saw that in me. He saw that drive. I had two dreams in life, and most kids that play football, NFL is one of them. And the other one was because I was around law enforcement officers, I wanted to be in law enforcement. So he knew that me growing up in the hood, he knew that me coming from a broken home, he knew that just was my situation for right now. He knew there was so much more than in me that I felt in myself. And he was willing to give that time and energy to help me get there as long as I was willing to put in the work.
Now, let me address the same question from an Officer Johnson and school teacher perspective, that I see a student, I see a person who may be vulnerable as you were at an earlier age. This person could, if I don't intervene, that's my thought process at this very moment. If I don't intervene, this person might make a wrong decision. Can you help those of us who may be reluctant to engage, or how do we effectively engage these kind of people? I think I can help. I want to help, but I don't want to stereotype, stigmatize, label, or anything such as that.
Yes, and that's one of the main things I do in the building from a educational support standpoint. I get involved with kids after they've been, well, I don't want to say after they've been in the incident, but try to see that, okay, if you keep on heading in this path, this is what the outcome could be. So the way I approach those young people, males and females, the way I approach them is, okay, again, do you like the outcome of what you just got yourself involved in? If the answer is no, then how do we change that? Okay. But if the answer is yes, this is where I really try to find out, okay, what makes you think that your actions were okay, that you can feel good about the outcome of what happened? And most of the time, it's coming from a hurt place. It's coming from some type of trauma, something that a young person has been through, and they haven't been able to address that. But once we find out what that issue is, I mainly talk to them about trying to figure out what it's going to take to get that bitterness, that hurt, whatever that feeling is that's causing you to act out. We got to take care of that before we can move on.
Coach, I love what you said, and I know you to be this way. I'm willing to invest my time to learn what motivated you to think and do what you did. Yes. It may take several hours to peel the onion back, but there's something that motivated you to do what you do, and I'm willing to take the time to help you analyze, if that's the way to think of it. I'm willing to help you think into it, and I'm willing to help you transform your life to do something better. You're worth the investment of my time. And that's what I see in you, Coach.
We got a young man, and I want but Moose, I won't call him by name. You know him, we've been knowing him the same. When I first got in contact with that young man, that's what it was. He had so much hurt, he had so much anger, and he really didn't know where it was coming from. But once we peeled back those layers and realized where that hurt was coming from, once we tapped into that, you seen the growth in him. From his 9th grade to his 12th grade year, he went from a kid who we couldn't rely on as a team and he didn't even want to really be a part of the team. But he grew so much where he was almost one of our leaders. And that's what it's about. And now this kid, he sees a better life for himself, opposed to when we first got him, the kid couldn't see himself getting out of high school. He couldn't see himself getting out of high school. So, my thing is you have to be willing to, for one, put in that time to try to find out where this hurt, where this anger is coming from. But the young person has to be willing to say, okay, I'm willing to, or you build that confidence where they can say, okay, I'm willing to open up and talk to you about that. And I think once we get there, we can do so much more when it comes to trying to get to that next level to see what your future looks like.
I appreciate what you just said. There's an aspect of this that is not necessarily going to be totally convenient to yours and my schedule to help other people. We will adjust to them if we care enough about that, and it's having a heart that we care enough about you. And if we discern that you're worth the investment of my life, I'll do anything I can to help you get to where you want to be, not carrying you across the finish line, but I'll show you how to get there. You be accountable to me, I'll be accountable to you, and together we'll get there.
That's so true. You're absolutely right. I've seen it. I've seen people come in to our school building, and you just would have never thought from the initial contact with that person that this person would even walk across a stage. But with them pulling in the work, them being willing to listen and take constructive criticism, and after that being able, like you said, to put in the work to say, okay, this is what I got to change in my life. You've seen kids turn around. You've seen kids want to be more than what their circumstances was.
Coach, thank you for your life of being an example, a mentor. Your life alone, my association with you, gives everybody hope that we don't have to be a victim. We can be a victor. And when we're around people like you, that you give me hope.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach Johnson came out on the positive side of life. We're thankful for him that he had two people who were ready to engage, who felt that he was worth the effort. They had the temerity to overcome any reservations they may have, but they engaged in his life. He's a very positive model of the impact of that engagement, and he was able, through these two people, albeit very different, but had the impact in his life that he was able to avoid all of the adverse influences from his neighborhood. What about engaging with people at the age that he described, age 12? What are your thoughts about that? What reservations do you have? Do you have any reservations at all about engaging with people? The possibility of stereotyping, stigmatizing, anything? I think there are many testimonies that say that effectively engaging, and what I am referring to by effectively engaging is not blaming, not telling a person that they, in too much of a negative way, if they make the wrong choices, they'll go down the wrong track. But we need to take the time to engage very effectively, develop relationships, and be able to have a very positive impact on people. What is your experience in engaging with people? What are your reservations for doing so? Let's engage. Let's discuss this with each other. If you're old enough to remember Carol O'Connor of All in the Family, he lost his son to drugs. He made a very impassioned appeal. Do whatever you have to do to get between your child and drugs. My plea to you is to do whatever we need to do to overcome any reservations, any fears, that we can very effectively engage with people. Relationships, all important. Can we develop very effective relationships to where we have a very connected relationship with people, trust, communication? Marty and I have developed a digital relationship course where we have dedicated this course to dating, marriage, and romance, but we are developing a companion course with workplace relationships. It discusses the personalities, how to effectively engage with people, and develop a very connected relationship. We want to make this available to you. Contact us at 410-586-1875 or Ron at thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. You can also contact us on our website, thecooperculture.com. Some people need coaching, and there is several different types of coaching. Coach Johnson is an athletic coach, coaching football. We are also engaged in football coaching, but we are a life coach where we help people overcome anything of the past that keeps them from performing at their maximum potential. Let's get together. Let's talk about coaching, how we might be able to help you overcome anything that is keeping you from performing at your maximum potential. Call us for a complimentary coaching session and intervention session where we can determine together if we are the right fit and if we can help you overcome any challenges that are keeping you from performing at your God-given potential. Let's engage, let's learn from each other, and let's help others by advancing them to the potential that they were designed to be, and let's choose to engage people and help them make those great decisions. We look forward to working with you.